It was a massive recruiting weekend once again for Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs, and after speaking with multiple sources about multiple prospects who were in town, I believe that multiple silent commitments were made to Kirby Smart and his staff, and I think a lot of guys are going to be committing publicly before they originally thought. That's how good of a time they had this past weekend. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down who is in town, where Georgia sits with them, and when they could be making a decision. But first, I want to plug DAWGSTRUCTION. If you buy the book soon, you will get the season preview for 2022 magazine that we've been working on. 50 pages, all color, Brock Bowers on the front. This is not something that you want to miss. Make sure you go grab the book right now, and the link is in the bio. Now going back to these official visitors, the first guy I want to talk about is Janelle Aguilar, 5-star safety. If you've been watching these videos, you know how much I think Georgia sits towards the top of his list. They rolled out the red carpet for him. He is a major target for Will Muschamp, Kirby Smart, and has been since the beginning of his recruitment. And I still think Georgia sits in a really good spot. He's at Florida actually right now for a midweek official visit, but I think Ohio State is the team that is Georgia's biggest threat right now for him, one of the top defenders and defensive backs in the country. But I really like where Georgia sits with him, and if I had to make a decision today, it would be Georgia. Is he one of the guys who made a silent commitment? That's definitely possible. I'm not sure when he's going public, but I think a decision or a commitment could come before his senior season. And again, if he made a commitment today, I like where Georgia sits. And the second guy I want to talk about is Jamal Jarrett, massive 4-star defensive lineman, exactly what they're looking for in this class. 6'4", 6'5", around that, 330 plus pounds, eats up double teams. He's the Jordan Davis type, and the staff actually brought in Jordan Davis to come help recruit him this weekend. That's how big of a deal he is to the staff. I've liked where Georgia sits with him for a long time. I've said since January and February, since I spoke with him in person in late February, that Georgia is the team to beat here, and I still think that to this day. I kind of think that they have a comfortable lead with Jamal Jarrett, who thought about committing before his senior season, maybe later this summer, but I think he could come off the board later this month. I think he's coming closer and closer to a decision, and I definitely think that Georgia is the clear team to beat for him right now, the massive defensive tackle out of North Carolina. Anthony Evans, one of the fastest prospects in the country, wide receiver out of Texas. He told me that he was going to make a public commitment at the end of the summer, but that he's going to make a silent commitment before then to the staff and then go public for everyone later on. So he's definitely a guy I have my eye on that I may or may not have been told was a silent commit, and told the staff over the weekend that he wanted to be a Bulldog. There's a big story on him over on Dog Post right now, what he likes about Coach McClendon, what makes Georgia special, and what he's looking for in school. So make sure you check that out. Don't want the low ranking for you here. This dude can absolutely fly. Former Arkansas commitment. Again, ran at 10.27 in the 100-meter. Claims a 4.3 in the 40. He's only going to get in better shape when he gets to the college level in that strength and training, conditioning level that they're going to have him on. So big prospect to keep an eye on. Another wide receiver, Tyler Williams out of Lakeland, Florida. Thought Clemson was the team to beat for a while now. Big athletic, 6'3", 180-pounder. He might be at the very top of Brian McClendon's board at wide receiver. A solid 4-star guy, possession receiver with deceptive speed. He's a guy who I think had a very successful visit, and he gave me a full breakdown. Of course, I think that's a story I have to write later tonight. It should be on Dog Post tomorrow. But he had a lot to say about Coach McClendon and why he thinks Coach McClendon is one of the best coaches in the entire country. So I definitely think Georgia has taken the next step for Tyler Williams, 4-star out of Lakeland. I was told he had a very good visit. Georgia already has one commitment at wide receiver right now, Raymond Cottrell, who was at Texas A&M this past weekend. I think Georgia still sits in a great spot to hold on to his commitment. But the two wide receivers that took official visits this past weekend, Anthony Evans and Tyler Williams, I think Georgia might be training for both of those guys in a big way. Tyler Williams is another guy who told me, hey, I want to make a decision during my senior season, so not for a few months, but after this visit, I think the staff would love for him. If they are the team out in front like I think they are, they're going to want him to get on board publicly soon. So Tyler Williams, although he told me he wants to commit during the season later this fall, he's definitely a guy who I could see coming off the board sooner than later, and I think Georgia is the team to beat there. Linebacker, Troy Bowles, Todd Bowles' son, head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Troy, an elite linebacker down in Florida in the 23 class. Instincts, made 103 tackles, just runs, he hits, a true 3-down linebacker who can cover. I think Georgia is a team that's probably trending for him. I know he had a great visit, was not able to speak with him for an article or a story just yet, but from everything that I was told, he loves Glenn Schumann. He wants to play in the league, would love to play for his dad, I'm sure, but if you're an inside linebacker and Glenn Schumann, of all coaches in the country, is recruiting you and wants you on board, it's tough to say no. And I have a hard time imagining Troy Bowles to say no to Glenn Schumann if he does want to be a 3-and-out type of linebacker, make an excellent career in Athens, and then get to the NFL and flourish. If you play for Glenn Schumann, you're going to get to the next level, and more likely than not, you're going to succeed. So another guy from Florida that they're recruiting, Grayson Howard, was a 4-star linebacker from the Jacksonville area who was also in town. Georgia, if they push for him, I think they're going to land him as well, but I'm not sure if South Carolina or Florida are teams recruiting him harder. I think that's possible, but if Georgia pushes for their top guys like they are, they're going to get those guys more often than not, especially at linebacker. Glenn Schumann does not miss on his guys, and I think he's going to bring in an excellent class at linebacker. Now, another guy, if you're thinking to yourself, who is the next to commit to Georgia? 4-star offensive lineman Kelton Smith out of Columbus, Carver High School, 6'5", 300-pound, plays tackle for them. I think is going to end up at guard at the next level. He's another guy who told me he wants to make a decision at the beginning of August, but I think could come off the board a lot sooner than that. So if we're talking silent commitments, I definitely think Kelton Smith is a guy to keep an eye on. So overall, if you look at this past weekend, I know the first weekend of June was probably the more star-studded, more 5-star guys in town for official visits. But come signing day, when you look at the class Georgia brings in, I think a lot of guys who were in town this past weekend are going to be on that list. So I think this is a weekend you could look to and say, hey, another big reason why Georgia brought in another elite class in 2023 goes back to these June weekends, and this past weekend was a big one. So Georgia's training for a lot of guys. I think a lot of these guys that I mentioned could come off the board pretty soon. And I think a few of these guys that I mentioned have already told Kirby Smart and staff, hey, I want to jump on board. Let's figure out a time when you would like me to go public. Of course, all this information and more is going to be on Dog Post. Guys, thanks for watching this video. As always, stay tuned to the next one coming up right now, and I will see you over on Dog Post.